What's going on, everybody? Ooh, it is another Thursday here in LaunchBox land. How's everybody doing? Focusborg, Andrew, Snarfo. Hope you guys are doing good. Debating about who's being first. I don't think it's who's first. Maybe who did it best? The Game or Die Show. Welcome in. I do love me some Bill and Ted, so I really like that emoji there. Things are good. Lots of stuff happening. I will say that I debated whether I was going to have time to do this stream. And in the end, I felt I had to do it just to have a little break, talk to you guys for a little bit. But it was like, it's kind of on the fence, kind of like UED with you playing Raiden and Raiden 2. Hope you're having a great time trying to get a high score there. Aren't you happy you asked for those files? Oh, things are going well here. I mean, we just released, and you'll like this. You'll like this, Andrew. We just released the official Android release 1.18. That is out. If you guys have an Android device, I do recommend downloading 1.18. I don't think it has much difference between Beta 6. There's a few things, not much. But Beta 6 looked to be a fairly good release candidate, so we ran with it. The main big things... Okay, so if I want to start writing this thing on Android, we released LaunchBox for Android 1.18. Yeah, there's so many different versions of Raiden. Yeah, I noticed that with the list. And I assume if one is fixed, they would all be fixed, but I guess we can't really take that for granted. And for anybody wondering what we're talking about, last week, what we did was there was a list of kind of blacklisted MAME for high score games, and we unblacklisted them for a few people to try out to see if they work now after we did a small update to it. And yeah, sounds like you guys are having lots of fun. Not getting high scores to test to see if that works or not. Right, Focusborg? It's exactly like the experience of being in an arcade. Losing at every game. You shot -10 on Turf Masters. Yeah, I guess Turf Masters is still not working. That's what it sounds like. You might or might not be. Which one is it? Making a small LB themed game. Wow, what would that be? Just like managing a library? Anyway, what is this update about? Mostly, we completely revamped how games are launched into emulators, like from the ground up. And that's to solve a whole lot of problems that different emulators have on Android. It should basically make things a lot easier moving forward. It's more flexible, and it should be much easier to add emulators that come out. And you'll kind of see that in the update. At the same time, we added scope storage support for emulators that require that, and then we realized not many emulators require that anymore, but there were some. So some that do require it. There's some emulators where new versions require it, old versions don't of the same emulator, depending on the files that get sent to the emulator. It depends on whether you need scope storage or not. It's a lot of weird things that happen on Android that we discovered in this round of the release cycle. And so all of that work is packaged together and released as LaunchBox for Android 1.18. So everyone can enjoy that, anyone that's on Android right now. We'll say Android, what's next? We are already in the process of what's next. We really want to do a number of things, and I can't really promise whether we're going to do them or not. But the main goals for this next round is we want to continue down the emulator path. We want to essentially want to keep going there. We know that there's some emulators that are just very quirky and weird. Vita 3K is one of them. I think, without actually doing the work, that we should have a solution for that. And if what my thoughts are turned out to be true, then the next release should have some sort of Vita 3K support that doesn't suck. And then we have, I would love to get some sort of preliminary playlist support in there. Android's never had that. Something that you can have a playlist section that you can have certain games. That would be nice. So we'll see how we can tackle those. We've got a few other things on the list, but I'll leave it at that. And Necros, welcome in. Yeah, I kind of remember your issue. I assume you're still having it. If you are connected with someone through emails, just give it some time. Sometimes things get a little busy, but the email won't get lost. So if you're waiting for something, maybe you can, in a few days, send an email back and just see what's up, and should be able to get a response. But if I remember correctly, your issue was very niche, very specific, and it might end up having to cause diving into really deep log files to figure out what the heck's going on. I mean, if I remember correctly, it's going to be some sort of weird hardware driver, some sort of weird stuff like that. Okay, so if you sent what you asked, maybe just time. I know that depending on who you're talking to, some people have been off, some people have been busy with personal issues. So if it's there, if you sent it and we got it, then you just have to wait. And you can always bump it if you want to send another email. Well, hopefully the last email that you got should have a name, and you can address the email to them. I know there's a few people that look at the emails right now, so a quick bump shouldn't be a bad thing. Anyway, what's been happening on Windows? Quite a lot. We essentially have started with, we released the update maybe a week or two ago, and I think that was at least 13.21 a few weeks ago. And since then, we've been really kind of crazy hard at work on a whole bunch of things. And I would classify all of those things as in a couple different buckets. The first bucket would probably be some sort of fixes. The main ones that you'll see in Beta 1 will be if you're using Windows Media Player in Big Box, videos weren't being centered for some themes. Prolific themes. So expect that to be fixed. Would have been a global way. Okay, yeah, so expect to hear from him. I know that it might have fallen off his plate because he's been going through some personal stuff. But he'll get back at it, and there's nothing wrong with doing a little bump. There was a very weird timing issue with, how do I say this without sounding odd? With certain kinds of image controls in Big Box that caused some UX in the theme vision. And so I was just thinking about it. I don't think there's another theme where anyone would see these timing issues except for that one theme. And I didn't even know that, like, we didn't touch the theme. We didn't touch really anything to do with the theming engine or touch the controls at all. What we did do, and what ended up causing it after like figuring out what the heck was going on, what you'll see is that the image just takes like a second, it's just like milliseconds too long to change to the next image. And that theme requires that the image change instantly because it uses those images as part of its sort of like faux wheel concept, right? There's no actual list. It just uses images as the list of games. And because of that, before the update, the images were updating fast enough that that kind of like fake list effect was working. And then after the update, it was just like too many milliseconds, like 200 milliseconds or something like that, which is slow enough to throw it off and to be like, okay, something's not right. The animation is happening, but the image doesn't change until either after the animation or like just as the animation's ending, which just looks odd. And so we're like, well, if we didn't touch any of these things, how is there any difference? And then we realized that, I think I talked about this in the past, we had like really, really long-term stability issues with Big Box. That basically means if you had Big Box running attract mode for like 2-3 straight weeks or something like that, you would get to the point where it would just start feeling a bit laggy. And so in order to correct that, we had to track down what the cause of that ended up being, like this really obscure, weird cause with this very specific Windows framework thing that was happening, where we're filling up these tables of indexes and we needed to remove them. And in order to do that correctly, and this is something that should have been happening inside of .NET already, but I guess the framework has a bug, made a mistake, so we had to create a concept where we were clearing or keeping cleared this table that Windows uses that nobody knows about. Anyway, so we were doing this all behind the scenes last update, and we put out the fix, and the fix ended up causing that for very specific kind of image control that we use some places, we kind of like, there's a de-link between when the action happens and when the image loads. So if you decouple that, you end up not causing issues with, or lag issues when you're like scrolling through games. You know, it's like almost like a lazy load type of thing. Let the image load when it loads, which in most cases makes sense, unless you're using images as your wheel, as your like game wheel. Because if you're just using regular images as a fake wheel, which that one theme does, you don't want the image to load later. The image requires it to be always updated. And so, yeah, well, basically it'll be a very theme-specific fix. So we're kind of working on that, trying to see what that fix will end up being. I've got 2 different things in mind. So that is what's on the plate there. At the same time, we're working on the retro achievements overhaul. I guess you could call it upgrade or enhancements. And I've talked about those in this stream a lot. And that is well on the way. I would say closer to being done than not being done. And that, of course, includes, for people that haven't watched past streams, auto login of retro achievement credentials. Tools into supported emulators. Utilizing their beaten status. Say identification of progress and win achievements. And we'll have UI and UX kind of like a pass on that. Yeah, right. Right, focus board. Load them all up in RAM. Except all images aren't just 20 or 30 gigs. How many gigs of images is in your library alone? Am I missing anything? I think those are the main big takeaways, and that's sort of like high level. And we've been kind of dealing with the nitty gritty of what these things actually mean for the user. There's a lot that goes into just the whole design, the concepts of what we want to accomplish with something like this. The best thing I can say is like the auto login of RetroArch credentials. How is that even going to be handled? We had to determine how does that even work in Retro Achievements. And we learned, okay, it has nothing to do with the Retro Achievement API. Okay, well, if you need your API key, which is used to determine things like your achievements, how many achievements that you've earned, like all your stats, your retro scores, like anything that we need to do, which games have achievements, all that is required for the API. Anything shown in LaunchBox requires your API key. But to get your like a credential token requires your username and password. So we're like, okay, well, is there any link between the two, like an API key and like a token? And apparently no, there is no link. So we had to say, okay, how can we best present this to the user that if you want to use retro achievements, we need your username and password, and we need your API key. And then how do we notify you guys as to whether, like, how to send these credentials to the supported emulators that we have? How do we keep you guys appraised of that we're doing that? Give you options around it. How do we tell you which one of your emulators actually has like credentials in there, which ones don't? Like all these things that we want to do, and it just kind of balloons from there. It's like a lot of work to get to the point where we just want to be able to give you guys the ability to not have to log into 5 emulators for retro achievements. Just log into LaunchBox and be done with it. At the same time, I've also been working on that hybrid view for Big Box, and I worked on it the other week, and I don't know. Did anybody remember what it looked like when I left off like 2 weeks ago? I did get some time to work on it since, and I don't want to work on it on the stream, but I'll show you guys an update of where we are and show you the benefit of this type of view. Really, like, the benefit is that you will have the platform wheel and a game wheel in one view. But that doesn't really mean much. Like, why? And I could say because of smoothness or better UX or something like that. But let's see. Am I on the right branch? Let's find out. I am. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's the view. I remember I was building out the wheel. And this is what we came up with. Looks like I'm missing a few things for some reason, but outside of that, here's the theme. Yeah. 104 just for images. Oh, God. Can you imagine the amount of time it would take just to load that into RAM? Yeah, download more RAM. Anyway. Here's sort of like the concept that I was going for. And what I'll show you after Big Box, there we go. The main thing is this. If I press enter and go into the game list, I don't leave this view. I stay in this view, and then this happens. I'm now in the game list. And I can back out and go back in. And everything that you're seeing happen, like basically what's happening. So you're in the game list, and the game list is showing a horizontal list of items. And if I press enter, the selected item gets smaller. The left and right items kind of disappear. And I'm left with basically this. At the same time, there's an animation that exposes the game wheel and brings it out, right? And that's all controlled by the theme itself, which means that a theme developer doesn't need to make it look like this. They can do whatever they want. The only thing that we say is you have to have a platform wheel, and you have to have a game wheel. It just has to be somewhere. Other than that, everything is themable and customizable from like a really, there's a lot of control there. And so this theme is getting to the point where it can be done, depending on how much I want to support. I've got to kind of like see, do I want to support 4:3 aspect ratio or like a 21:9 aspect ratio? Do I want to support portrait mode? I might cut myself off just so that I can get this done to not support so many aspect ratios and to just have this theme done. Right? The other things that you could see is that you can use triggers to basically indicate which wheel that you're in. So you'll see in the top left there that the platform's word is now highlighted. But if I go into the game wheel, it kind of switches, and now the game wheel text is now highlighted. And that's just done with a basic trigger. Say, hey, are you in game wheel? If you are, run this animation on this text to make it bigger and to change the color or to change the opacity or something like that. And the other thing, what do you guys think of the way that the video is working? So because not every single video is going to be 16:9, and so every theme kind of treats videos differently. In this theme, I'm kind of toying with the idea of keeping a 16:9 space for those videos, and if it's not a 16:9 video, kind of do this kind of glossy mirror effect in the background to cover the empty spaces. Andrew, you think that's a smooth experience? Yeah, I really like, I mean, the whole point of this theme is to show off, hey, it can be a smooth experience. This is what we were thinking in our heads. Go crazy as far as theme development. If you get rid of the border, you can't put a border in there at all, right? So we cannot know the size of the video, first off. That's not a thing that we can do. The element doesn't report back video sizes. And so what would end up happening is the elements under it or above it, you can see like below it, there's some stuff like metadata that's sized to it. Right? And so that it will be stationary. It cannot change size. And so the video will just be this small little thing on top of it. Some platforms will get really skinny, right? Like Nintendo DS. Like that's why you kind of see in the default theme, it's just sort of a video and there's nothing around the video. All right. I don't know if I have a default theme here. They're just sort of like there. Yeah, videos are have always been extremely restrictive. And of course, one of the updates that we're wanting to do in this release cycle is to change out the video wrapper that we're using, which might end up introducing a brand new video playback engine. We don't know. But what I'm hoping, I'm like crossing my fingers that maybe this new wrapper will be able to tell us the size of videos before they start playing. Maybe. Although, who knows? Like, it might not even be the wrapper's choice. They can only read whatever Windows or the program's going to tell you. Yeah, there's too many. Like, you would think that maybe there's only a few, but there's so many different aspect ratios. Just an insane amount. And you can kind of see it in a view like this. Right? Like, okay, you got the regular 4x3, like here. And of course, the Nintendo DS one's going to be extremely skinny. But then, like, Game Boy is not 4x3. It's skinnier than that. Game Boy Advance is actually wider, but it's not a full 16:9, which you can see here. Yeah, and the arcade can just change game by game. Our Pokemon Mini surprisingly looks like a 4x3 screen. Virtual Boy is kind of wide, but not quite 16:9. And there's just a handful right there. Anyway, that's where we are. I'm plugging away at that every chance that I get, because I've got to finish this theme. I've got to finish one for the default theme. And then maybe one more. We'll see if I can get to it. And so expect all of those things to come within the next update. And I'm hoping that there's going to be some sort of beta probably early next week or something like that that will contain some of these things. I do want to get the centered video thing out for you guys, for people that are experiencing that problem. And it would be nice. I mean, we're still a little bit of ways away for this retro achievements thing. It could be sooner if we want to not polish it up, get it out there, get people's feedback, and then polish it up in like a second beta. Will it work with platform categories? Yes, it does work with platform categories. It'll be similar to a platform view, right? So you'll just be navigating through your platform categories in that one row of where the platform wheel is, and then you'll just keep cycling until you hit a game view. And when you hit a game view, it will then switch yourself over to that game wheel, and all the triggers would just work as far as the theme developers stance. You don't have to theme specifically for platform categories view versus platform view. But don't games want to get hit? Isn't that the theme of most games? You didn't have to start at the bottom of that list. There was a giant list of games. All right. That's essentially where we are. There is more things that we have done. We're getting prepared for a number of things on the game's database as well. And so, I mean, this is sort of a random tidbit, but we did add Nintendo Switch 2 to the game's database. Let's see. I think only yesterday. So people can start adding games when they come out. I guess we're just forward thinking. But we also want to add some more games or some more platforms into the games database. We're always open to that. There was a thread about that, and people gave us suggestions. And we've been cataloging the ones that we're like seriously thinking about adding to the games database. The issue that we're going to come across is if we do add something to the games database, you cannot really take it back. Yeah. But if you separate the games database from what we do in LaunchBox, it could be like a self-contained database. We think of it as more of something that we like we invest in this giant games database server. We invest money into developing it and maintaining it and getting it better. And really for people to use, like separate from LaunchBox itself. And so we do want it to be as accurate and friendly as possible for people to use. And so through that, what we want is we do want to add any missing platforms that we know are missing, as long as they follow they basically have to say, hey, this is a platform. This is not like an upgraded hardware model of something we already have or something like that played the exact same games, things like that. Like, is this a dedicated piece, like a platform that had unique games to it? Because you can fall down through a pretty bad rabbit hole if you start allowing certain things to appear, which actually, in the birth of the games database, that is exactly what happened. We created an arcade platform. That's great. But then we also created like a Neo Geo AES platform. But Neo Geo AES platform is just a type of arcade game. So now there's always questions. Does it, do I import, do I like scrape the Neo Geo AES platform, or do I scrape arcade? And where am I putting this data if I'm trying to upload, if I'm like part of the community to upload these things, where do I even put it? And we can't even take it back because people have been using it for years. And if we deleted a platform, that would kind of suck. LaunchBox might not even know what to do. So we kind of take things fairly seriously when we're adding a platform, because we know we can't take that back. And so with that in mind, there was a number of platforms that we were looking into adding based on users' feedback over on the forums. I'm sure if you were interested, you can go to the forums under the LaunchBox Games database side, find that thread. It can't be that far down the list there. It's probably pinned. Let's see, it's got to be here somewhere. It's in the news and updates section. Help us expand the LaunchBox Games database. And so we've read through that a while ago, and we created a list. And I think we put a platform in there. If I can remember which one it was. I don't think it was that one. It might have been. Here's the list. We added the Bandai Supervision 8000. That's the one we added. And you can see since we added that one, people have put all the games in there for that one. So if you did have the Bandai Supervision 8000 imported into LaunchBox before, it should be much easier these days to do it and get actual metadata and media for those games now. And so that's the benefit. The other ones that are on our list that are candidates are one for Java 2 Micro, the Java 2 Micro edition. There was a very good written case on why that should be a platform. The Casio PV2000 is here. And there's a few others. We did add the Pico 8 at one point. I don't know if that's... I don't know how that's been going. Looks like it's been going pretty good. Definitely quite a few games, but once we added that one, we knew that that's going to unlock or open up the floodgates for other imaginary fantasy consoles. So we got a few of those on the list to take a look at as well. And if you do have a platform that you think deserves a spot, definitely look through this list. Here's a direct link. Definitely look through that forum post, read through it, and then answer the questions that I'm pretty sure are on there. And then we will add it to the list. And we were recently talking about the next ones that we're going to put on there, and we'll just keep going that way. Keep building the list. Sure. If you can make a case and answer all the questions on that forum post, I'll guarantee that I will add it to our list to take a look at. 100%. Sega Neptune. An outlet mall. Welcome in. How long does it take for a game added to the LaunchBox game database to be added after you submit it? So I can tell you what happens. So if you went and you decided that you're going to click on this add new game button and you go through this process to add a new game and you hit the submit button, the next step is you go to your changes status page and you'll see your game, your added game somewhere like this. And you'll see that I feel like each individual item that you add to it will get some sort of score. So a moderator will approve it or deny it. If they decide to deny it or reject it, they have to give you a reason as to why they're doing that. And then I think the rule is that you need 3 approvals more than the rejections that you get. So if you get just 3 approvals right away, it will get added, and it will just instantly be added to the games database. After that, that process might take time. Our mod queue, it's like 400 items sitting in the mod queue right now for people to accept or reject. Like this one, someone wants to delete this image that's 670 by 1055 resolution and replace it with this one, which is 178 by 281. That seems like a downgrade. If I'm looking closely, I'm not seeing any reason visually why. It looks like he's just trying to replace it with a thumbnail, which is not good. And his reason is to keep it. That doesn't sound right. And so as a moderator, I would just sit here, okay, new image, smaller than the old image with no other benefit. And then I'll hit submit. And now he's got one rejection on that one change, and it goes to the next one. Now I got to do that 412 times. So someone wants to delete this game, and the reason given is Leonardo. I don't know what's going on with some people. Is it a duplicate? Is this PlayStation 3? Nope. Yeah, right? Leonardo. I'll be like, Leonardo, it's not a good reason to delete a game on the database. No matter how much you may hate him. So a lot of people do something like this. You know, I want you to delete this value, the developer Mirage. Why? Because Moby Games. All right, outlet mall, what game did you submit? Because after it's submitted, there's a few things that then need to happen. And I want to make sure that it's actually happening. So when something like this is the reason, there's like, okay, it's because of this. So they're assuming that Moby Games is one, correct? So are you talking about like a homebrew or a hack or something? Super Mario Bros. On the Commodore 64. And you're saying it was this one or not this one? Rejected by Leonardo's mob, who still loves him. Or were you saying the game's called Super Mario Bros. C64? And I just assumed it was for the Commodore 64. Yeah, the only one I'm seeing is this one, which looks like it was based off of the Super Mario Bros., which you're saying is not this one. Okay, I see. Let me write that down, because that might be a problem. It's for the platform Commodore 64. Problem might be because there's already a game called the Super Mario Bros. For that platform. I'll look into that. Yeah, if it's not showing up on the database, there might be a problem. All right, I got that down to take a look at. Okay. Yeah, I mean we'll take a look into it. I have a sneaking suspicion that because it has the exact same name as another game in the same platform, that is probably causing a problem. So we'll take a look at it. So outside of that, what I did want to do, although maybe I don't have to do it on the stream, is that when you do a release like Android, there's a number of things that needs to be worked on, and I'm kind of running out of time to do that work. So I'll go through like what exactly do we have to do. The first thing we have to do is we have to get a video made that shows off some of the features about this Android update. And so that video is done, and we need to get it out. And so I'm pretty sure, so here's the video. And we want to make sure that it's got everything that we want in it. That we got the chapters and stuff like that, thanks to our community manager, Andy. Everything kind of looks good. It's got some subtitles in it. We've got a thumbnail there for it. That I had to work on this morning. I think it's basically ready. After that goes out, then we basically spend a little bit of time. I'm going to have to work on the newsletter, get that together. And I worked on newsletters in these streams in the past. Nothing new. It's going to take a few hours to get that going and out. In the meantime, what we do is we usually spend time looking at all the different places that we can that deals with the Android release and see what people are saying. If they're saying anything, usually when no one's saying anything, it means that that's a good thing. If they're saying something, it's usually probably not a good thing for us. Especially when it happens really quickly. But that is basically what we've been working on over the last week and a bit. There's a few other things that are going on behind the scenes. The one thing that I was going to say and kind of got sidetracked with Leonardo and his rejections was we have a lot of features that we want to do to link up with the games database that rely on the games being there, like linking things to a game. I'll give you an example of something that we already do with that we now need to, it's kind of on hiatus, we have to bring it back. But let's say here, there's a game. Oh, but that game is, you can get it on Steam. Right, here's a link directly to Steam. That's great. It means that we have, a column in our database that basically says this game on, it says, what's this game's Steam ID? And we type the Steam ID, and then the website does this and puts that link. If someone came here and said, I don't like this game, I'm going to delete it, and it goes through successfully, this game is gone, that link is gone. And if somebody else came back and added the game, but didn't add this link, we now don't have that link. Also, if somebody imported this game and then somebody deleted the game from the game's database, well, you added the game to your LaunchBox library, and the ID that it's associated with no longer exists. And that's a problem if you're going to associate your game in your library to a game that now no longer exists and you can't find metadata for and all sorts of stuff. And over time, you can see how that could be a problem when people continuously delete games from the database. And so here we are. We want to add more links to things in this games database. You know, some things like the retro achievements, for example. We've been talking about how do we link retro achievements so that the database knows about them, and the database knows that a game has an achievement or not, and that there's a link between our database and the retro achievement database. It's like, well, we can do all that. We can get games and we can have that established link and make it so that it will like get better over time, fixes from both our team and their team, and oh, here comes somebody and they've deleted the game, and now that whole thing is broken for that game. And so we're working on a fix, or I guess not really a fix. We're working on, I guess you would say, an improvement to make it so that games will be much harder to delete. There's got to be a really good reason to delete a game. And at the same time, if the reason is that it's a duplicate of another game, we'll have a feature that will allow you to link one game with that other game. So it'll kind of like combine it in the IDs. So basically making it so if somebody linked in their LaunchBox library with game A and that game got removed because game B is the same game, we'll still be able to remember the ID of game A and send people to the metadata of game B, essentially. And so with those two changes, the database over time shouldn't become worse and worse as far as linking due to the community enhancements. I mean, if it's a remastered game, I'd argue it probably needs its own. It probably needs its own a game entry. It's no longer the same game. Right? If the metadata under that game entry is going to be significantly different, then it probably should be its own game entry. Now, we also have to do some work to allow games of the same name to be on the games database. I think we already can. The problem is the work really has to be on the LaunchBox side of how do we differentiate between games with the same name and the same platform. And so we actually have done that work somewhat in a number of different ways and a number of different branches that we have. And hopefully we can get to a point where things are much more going towards the right direction as far as the games database is concerned, to stop whatever bleeding that we have where community members are trying to like solve the database, and by doing so end up kind of like breaking things on the database so that we learn much later on when we're trying to develop some feature, or we do our own, like I'll do my own personal downloads and metadata, and I'll just be like, okay, well, in 2022 I imported this platform and imported all these things great, and all these images came in, and now I'm doing the same thing, and like games aren't being linked anymore. Like images are being, the images I'm getting aren't as good as before. They're just like, why are we going in that direction? Why is that happening? And all due to because someone changed the name of a game. Names of games change all the time on the games database. And the problem is that changing those names have like consequences when inside of LaunchBox itself. So there's another problem that we have to solve. Yeah, Focusborg. There's a problem if they're all on the same platform, like on Windows. We do have a bit of a solution on Windows that makes sense that we need to now expand on, which is the whole like Steam ID link. So if you had the game on Steam, we can rely primarily on that Steam ID to determine which game to actually import. And so there's a huge benefit to use our Steam integration. If it's something like the MS-DOS platform and seeing like different games, the idea being like what I want to get to is allow for each of those different Fallouts to be represented by their actual name. No more adding things to a title to have them exist. They're all named Fallout. Just make them all named Fallout. And then, in LaunchBox, we have to solve, well, what differentiates these three versions of Fallout? In a global sense, that we could apply this to every situation to allow for the matching of the metadata without it taking an absurd amount of time for users when they're running this process in LaunchBox. And so there's other metadata points that we can use, developers, platform, publishers, that sort of thing. And as long as the game file itself knows, then we should be able to handle that. If it doesn't know, then we would have to figure out some elegant solutions to determine that. So there are always ways that we could try to do that, whether it's MD5 hashes or exact file name databases or something like that. Whatever we end up doing, though, is going to balloon the database quite a lot. And so we are cognizant of that. Yeah, the solution that the community has decided to use isn't really working, as far as it's working in the sense that the games are being added to the database. It's not working in the sense that it's doing any favors for identifying those matches. I use the Nintendo Entertainment System as a good example, because there'll be a lot of like these things. Oh, that's the wrong game. Like this. This doesn't need to exist unless that's what the game was called. Doesn't look like it was. Right. There becomes a point where it wouldn't be that. It would be very hard for us to know. No matter what system that you live in. Like the system we live in now doesn't work. We know that. If you have a million different Tetris things and none of them have any kind of viable different look towards them, really the only solution that we could come up with. So over time, if we wanted to get better, we could be saving these, like basically hashing these games, saving the MD5 hash of the different kinds of values of that game, and trying to figure out which one goes with what. This would, in essence, balloon the database quite a lot, and at the same time, cause... I can see it causing incorrect matches. Like we would have to be able to prune and clean those files. And it would make it so that the matching process would probably, it would definitely take longer. And so we would have to decide how much longer is okay. Is it 5 times longer? Is 2 times longer okay? Is 5 times longer okay? Is 10 times longer okay? How much longer are you willing to wait during an import? And so that's something we'll have to end up figuring out. I always look at this game. Right, so there are 2 games on the Nintendo Entertainment System called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And if you look, someone decided to add the words "the action game" to the end of one of them, even though that's just not anywhere. That's just a words to differentiate the two. Before they used to use this, just put the name of the publisher, at least some of the name of the publisher. Well, none of those really work. And this 100% doesn't work. And so, okay, it works to have the games here in the database. But what will happen is during an import, it's because both games are actually called Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, that's what your files are called, and therefore both of those games are going to be added to this one. Right? And then that's it. That's basically what's going to happen. It's not even a choice. Even if we were to go and fix it, let's say we decide to fix it, we're going to use the developer or publisher or something like that, and we end up fixing it. So we got like the developer or the publisher, and then the other one is something else, and we managed to download this one. Now this one has an incorrect name, so that's not good. This is also another thing that I don't 100% like. Look at these alternate names. And hey, Astrobob, welcome in. We were talking about the release of Android recently. Ooh. So this alternate name says this one is for the world and this one is for Spain. But the idea being that world means that was the name used across the world. But since there's a different name in Spain, it means that this name is no longer can be considered a name that was used across the world, because in Spain it wasn't used. And so same with images. we've got a lot of images that were tagged as world when really they just meant that the image was utilized in different places than one around the world, but not all. And so when we realized people were doing that, what it ended up doing was breaking the image matching logic. So like people were doing this, and over time, the image matching logic was getting worse and worse in LaunchBox for us not doing anything. And we're like, okay, our database now looks like this. What do we do? So we had to build like this brand new image matching logic a bunch of years ago to counteract these choices that are being made on the game's database. I think The Legend of Zelda is the one that I saw it on, I think first. It's like when you're importing such a prolific game like The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, then you just expect, well, this game worked a year ago and everything was fine, and now I'm downloading it and I'm seeing a Japanese clear logo or something. Like, how is it getting worse? And then I had to really do the research. Okay, well, at the time it was like this clear logo was marked as world, and then this one was marked as Japan. And so our logic was looking for a North American or a US or something, even Europe logo, and it couldn't find one because it was marked as world, and so it downloaded the Japanese box clear logo instead. So it looks cleaner here, at least. This one's still marked as world. See, but in this instance, how can this be world if there were differences in different countries? So we basically said, okay, this is what people are doing. Let's try to fix it in the code. And so we fixed it in the code. This is a problem, though, by the way. I don't know who's doing this, but please don't do this. Spines for the Super Nintendo should really be like this. Really, it's just for the two, Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64. Unless we live in a world where we're going to have multiple different sides, which might be coming eventually. At least on the database, so that this stops happening. Because now our system doesn't know what to do with this. Anyway, I think at the time we released the system of spines, put out a detailed guide. This is what we want you guys to do. And then nobody read it. And then this started happening. So what we decided to do more recently is every time we make a change to the image, we constrain it in the code itself. And so stopping people from being able to upload it and not even making it like a moderator choice. So you can see that in particular, if you tried to upload an image, let's say, I had an image here. Do I have any images here? There we go. And I decided that this is a disc or a CD. Or a clear logo. And I said, this is a disc of this game. Oh. It shouldn't let you send that in, essentially. I'm not going to give it a try, but it's going to look for these transparent layers, and if it's transparent, it doesn't have transparency in the CD, in the clear logo, we're not even going to let you upload it. Or we're not going to let you send it in for moderation, basically. Anyway, I have yeah, I wish that would be a reality. In order to get there, because we talked about that when we were first developing the 3D model system, and in order to get to a place where you have that, there's like arcade cabinets, special arcade cabinet, like all these things were you have very specific sizes. Like, could we develop a way that allows people to provide their own 3D model with full textures of that one game? And as far as our discussions went, if I remember correctly, it would be possible. People would have to follow a very, very strict, people that are building these things would have to follow very strict protocols to get that to work inside of LaunchBox. But if they did, then we could potentially build a database of 3D model boxes and potentially house them on the game's database. The question is, are there people out there that are willing to, like, we had to decide, at least for the first pass, is there people out there just like itching to give us completed 3D models and spend the time to format it in the exact format that we need, and then like use them? And at the time we weren't thinking about the game's database, that would come later. Like, and then like go into LaunchBox, edit a game, upload that file into the game and use them. And then later figure out if there were those people, would they be willing to then put it on the game's database for others to use? And we kind of came to the conclusion that that was just not a reality. And ED, yeah, there's the old big box website. It's called the Big Box Collection, if I remember. And yeah, let's say, best case scenario, the guy that created those, and they are formatted in a way that we can consume, and he's willing to share it with us, let's say, and we take all of them. It would be like a drop in the bucket to what we need. I wish it wasn't the case. Yeah. Yeah, we should ask them, would you be able to give us all of the work that you guys been doing so that Focus Board can have it in his library? Although for the most part, you don't need the work that these guys were doing for big boxes, right? Because we can already simulate that stuff pretty well if it's just a basic rectangle. How many of the boxes that are there are not rectangles or not boxes, but they're like pyramids or some other shape? And then identify all of those. And then see what that list looks like. And then it would be creating a system to house those specific ones. And I would say if it is like a geometric shape of some kind that makes sense, that we probably could more easily change the system to accommodate that. Yeah, I would say most like somebody like the Game Box Museum, for example, like they're spending time and effort to put these 3D boxes together. I mean, it's mostly all they're doing. Like that's their whole basis of the website, and so probably doesn't make sense for them to hand over their work. And instead, it looks like what they're doing is they're going to create their own app. Right. We wouldn't be able to do the really weird ones. But let's say you did want to do Tomb Raider, for example. Okay, well, this is already dictating what the shape is. And so if we allowed the front image to dictate the shape, and we can just take our box model to be in that shape, and we could probably do this one. Oh, look at those white backgrounds. Now, you're noticing that nobody has the back of this box, which is kind of disappointing. But then the way that the system currently works, like because it's so dynamic like that, it takes the front of the box and then that determines what the aspect ratio is. I don't see a spine here, but the spine determines the width of the box, of the depth of the box, I should say. And then the back just gets stretched to whatever the front box proportions were. And that's sort of how the system works in a nutshell. All right, guys. It is 2:30. I need to work on the LaunchBox for Android newsletter. And I don't know if you're still around, Astro Bob. But let us know when the video is out. Oh, you did. The video is out. Okay, so we have the Android video is finally out. Nice. Well, finally, here it is. Can I see it?
This one mistake is stopping you from losing weight.
Oh, okay. That was wonderful. There, the video is out. Cool. The next step is get the video out, get the socials posted, which I assume is done at this point, and then it's the newsletter. So what I've been doing is I've been working a little bit where I can on this newsletter. Got a cool breakdown of the features. Got okay. So you saw the expo. Say thanks to Astro Bob. Good. And then kind of format it and put it together. I do want to get to that. And so either way, I can do it on camera or I can do it off camera. If I could figure out how I can do this. I'm cool either way. If anybody has any questions, let's continue to discuss things. I am here if we have any problems happening inside of LaunchBox or anything that you want to talk about. Distract me and we can talk about that. Outside of that, what I do need to do is remember what this looked like. All right, so what I'll end up doing is I'm going to make a copy of our other Ooh. I should not have done that. I'll make a copy of this one. What did this one look like? Ah. That doesn't seem right. Okay, it looks like we might not have an Android specific newsletter. That's fun. Alright, so I'll have to work on that as well, it looks like. And Focusborg, would you be interested in adding pics of all the feelies that came in boxes of old RPGs in the database? All the stuff that came in those Ultima boxes. I mean, I'd love all of that stuff. The problem is whether we should or not. I don't know if... we could say we globally want to support all these things, or whether they're still under any kind of copyright law or something. We're already kind of straddling the line there. And Andrew, you had a problem with the Android version when you tried to browse your NAS directories. They were a null value pop-up error, and shortly after that, the whole app crashed. You've launched it again, and there was a configuration error, and your config was gone. Like database, your data was gone. So hopefully it doesn't mean your database was gone, because if that's the case, you can always restore a backup of it. Maybe there was a problem with a corruption with a file. It doesn't sound like there was. But depending on where you are, if your data file's gone, just all of a sudden gone, your app settings. Okay, so that's not so bad. There should be a backup of that in your data folders if you really wanted to restore it, or you can just remap it where you can. But that is very strange. The error itself, you don't have to worry about. We'll have a report on that. And so we'll just have it and be able to address it if it's addressable in the next update. Overall, how are you liking are you using the network share feature? I'm looking at my phone. Is there a platform I need to import? I mean, there's a lot of that stuff, right? I know all the old adventure games always came with stuff required to cut through all of the copyright things they try to add to those games. Although most of those things ended up being created in a way that stops. Like it literally stops you're not even able to like scan them. They were designed so that you couldn't be scanned. But it'd be cool to have all that stuff. Interesting. So you're taking advantage of the NAS sport. So that's interesting. How did you end up converting your games? Did you take advantage of the plugin in LaunchBox to do it? Well, I bundle all that crap up together. They're just part of the nostalgia. But yeah, I love all those extra things. I wonder how many people would upload them to the database. Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, it's essentially just a simple command line. You just have to type in. I think that's how I originally did mine. I just created a bat file to run a very specific command line that just bulk changed everything for me. But once that plugin was created, it made things really easy for anybody. So, I mean, that's the question, Focusborg. If we said, hey, here's like a section and you can upload all these extra things for any game, and mark them with whatever tag that you want, map or coin or whatever came with the game. And we just start building a database of that, like regardless of whether you can download it in LaunchBox or not. Is the image enough? Is that image being there enough for you? Or is the context of what that image is more important? You should do that anyway. You should just take a picture of your Oblivion coin. You don't need me to give you permission to do that. Alright, we're just going to go with this for now. Alright, what am I doing here? That to do. So you just want a database of that stuff. Does that mean that you kind of need these images to be in its own category? Of like an image group of what's in the box image group. It's just a collection of images of everything that you would have found in the box. And I guess you would have to include things like the CD or the disc in that. One thing we did talk about is the idea that we could add things to the database like that, like the manual, those type of things, the things that were in the box. There have been historically, there's been some things where companies will contact you and be like, we don't want you to have that on your server. And I'm wondering if that's enough to basically say we shouldn't do this as a whole for game preservation, because these companies are, and they will contact us, and we would have to develop a way to stop people from including them. And so, again, there's like a line that we are technically crossing by doing that, all in the name of game preservation. Yeah, will a company contact us because we're including things? It probably wouldn't happen that often, but it probably would happen. And so we would need some sort of solution for that, which, I mean, it's not out of the question. It just means that we have to develop for that. Just time, knowing, be preemptive, knowing that this could happen. So develop a way for a copyright holder to contact us and be like, hey, take this down. And then we've got to be able to not only do it, but develop a system that makes it so it can't be re-uploaded somehow. That one would be tough. And Outlet Mall, sorry. We did have that planned out already, in the way that you're thinking of, like the workflow is, and folks work. Technically, you can do that, and I'll talk about that next. But the the workflow that you want is pick a platform, filter down the platform. Or you can't do that. You can do that in reverse. So you can say, if you see these search options here, you can say platform Sega Genesis, genre adventure, right? And now I'm seeing all the adventure games for the Sega Genesis, which there wasn't that many, let's be honest. So it's like, can you do it? Yes. Can you do it in the workflow that you want? No. And so what we would have to do is on this page, or on this page, we would have to put somewhere, whether on the top here or on the side here, a set of filters. And so we actually have, right? So the process of that starts with, here's the idea. The idea is I want to have a set of filters on these platform pages. Also could be called the game list pages. And then step 2 is, okay, what do we want on that? List out all that stuff. I want these things. Here's the metadata that we have. How do we want it to look? Well, let's design out how we want it to look. I kind of want it to look, vaguely like this, but we can't be vague. We've got to be very specific. We want it to look exactly like this. And so we get a designer. This is what we want. Can you make something that looks kind of like this? And then so we pay a designer. They come back with, like, here's some ideas. And that work actually has already been done, surprisingly. Over, if I can find it. Surprisingly, not seeing it at all. Here it is. Oh, I went in the wrong one. That's why I can't see it. There it is. Anyway, so it's like, okay, well, why don't we have it so that you can have these filters on the side here, and you can like choose it like this and filter down the list with a search bar, or with all of these filters that we can add on the side in this way, genre. And and then what does it look like on mobile? All the way up to this size. And so that design work's been done. And now it's about redoing our page to build out that logic, that functionality, and then putting that splash of paint. This splash of paint also conforms better with the game page, which has already been updated. So that's why we have this work done, because we got a guy to redo basically all the pages, and we just haven't had time to justify the workflow here. I'd rather be getting the developer to create regionalized release dates for everybody to use versus this. And so you remember a game for the Commodore 64 that is the indoor sports style game. What does that mean? Indoor sports styles, like a catalog of different indoor sports games, including air hockey, darts. How many games can you remember? It was a collection of indoor sports games like air hockey, darts, maybe pool. Sports Time Superstar Indoor Sports. Why do we not have that? How does this one look? I don't know if you can see it on the screen. What do you think, Outlet Mall? It's not it. Okay. It's not Superstar Indoor Sports. Have you tried asking AI? It seems to indicate pub games. Although it doesn't look like this one has air hockey. You remember playing a ping pong game with friends as a kid? Konami's Ping Pong. Was it actually called Konami's Ping Pong? It was. Yeah, I would have loved that game when I was a kid. And it looks like it was on the Commodore 64 too. It's possible I played this game when I was a kid on the Commodore 64. You think you added some of those images? Awesome. Yeah, it sucks when you're trying to remember a game. Does anybody have any games that they are trying to remember from as a kid? I talked about the one that I was missing for many years and finally found it. Let's see. Oh, looks like I did not paste in the remaining item. You already found all yours, Focusborg. That's good. Yeah, I don't think I have any more from my childhood. I think I definitely found them all. The last one being that game, if I have it still. There it is, Morath's Entrap. Which for some reason I don't have it set up properly. Castle Excellent. Yeah, there was a long time I thought Morath's Entrap was named something different. Like something to do with, like it had to have Labyrinth in the name. I was like 99% sure that the game that I played had the name Labyrinth in it. And it led me down the wrong path forever. Which DOSBox cores are there? And yet, I played this game, I finally find it, and I'm playing it, and I'm like, this game literally has game literally has I chose wrong. Has the name of the game. Yeah, I chose wrong. I remember doing that before too. Literally has the name of the game on the screen 100% of the time. So you made a favorites list for the Commodore 64, 25 games so far. Man, this game's hard to play. There we go. That's what it looks like. It says, please copy this game for all your friends and all your acquaintances. That's funny. Yeah, this game had an entire guide inside of it because it was so complicated. Oh, here we go. Are you ready? If I can remember how to play this. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong buttons. Guess I should have looked at those instructions, shouldn't I? Oh. Interesting. I completely forget how to play this. Oh, it does say use the numeric cursor pad to move. We'll have to have fun later. Okay, so I have the newsletter that I'm building out. And I need to make sure that it's actually looking okay. All right, so far so good. The hard part is always to come up with images that I don't have. So right now it's using these old images from this 1.15 update. So in order to create the images, we need to come up with a set of images based on what we're talking about in this newsletter. Oh, let me take a look. So far I only have that thumbnail that I sat and worked on all morning. This one. And let's make it something smaller. That program's always super slow. Alright, so if I wanted this to make sense, I'll create a new folder, call it LaunchBox for Android 1.18, and we're going to put the image in there. And then we're going to have, I feel like there's a different way that I'm calling images in the new newsletters. I don't see why. MJ image. Some weird padding that for some reason I added at some point. Okay, so let's assume that there isn't. Then really all I have to do is I see why it's doing that. Okay. Okay, so this would be images. LaunchBox for Android 1.18. 1.18 JPEG, something like that. Did I do that right? It looks like it. Okay, add image. What is? It's the image. I don't like the way that it's sitting there. I wonder within all these MJML files if there's a style sheet somewhere. Guess I should learn how this MJML thing works. There's a footer, there's a header, there's a welcome, and just the basic files, the converter, the app, test app. Not quite seeing it here. These are images. Oh well. It's probably buried pretty hard. On. Wait, I changed the right image, right? It does look like I did. What I'll have to do is attach it to Focusborg. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Enjoy Oblivion. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, let me know. Outside of that, I'll probably call the stream in the next bunch of minutes or so as I try to finish the newsletter for you guys. And then move on to bigger and better things. You know what I need to do? There is a playlist somewhere here. There it is. I don't think I need that. Make sure it's the right link before I start. Oh, I see what I started doing. Yeah, see you later, folks. Borg. I see what I started doing. And the real Solly, hey, welcome into this week. Would it be difficult to implement something like this for missing video snaps? So you want default missing video is essentially what you want. I don't think it would be difficult. I could see people not wanting that. But we do have the concept of like a default image. Right? So if you went into, doesn't matter which one you go into, we have these concepts of the default 3D box, 3D cart, default box, default cart. And the idea is if your game is missing something, we'll fall back to this. It's almost like a fallback image for that platform. And so we could just add a default video and have that fall back on a per platform basis. And you're thinking too much like File Explorer. You don't have to worry about File Explorer. In fact, we prefer that you don't go into the File Explorer, and instead we would just like add the ability for you to add a video here. So I can't see that being out of the question. If I were to rate that, I would say like a value between 1 and 10 and the effort between 1 and 10. I would say the effort is probably pretty low. 1 or 2 out of 10. So not too hard. Maybe a few hours. I would rate the value as also somewhere around there. 1 to 3. Will most people use a feature like that? Probably not. How many people are using the image one, which I would actually rate higher than a video? It's probably not a big percentage of users, but it's nice that it's there. And for the people that like it, I mean, they're really happy that it's there. And so that's probably where I would rate it, something like that. Easy to do, so might as well, but the value that it has to the majority of users would probably be in the 10% of the user base kind of thing. Which means that's a perfect request. If you haven't requested it over on FeatureBase, we would definitely go ahead and do that. Interesting. That is interesting. I wonder what the difference is here. This is probably... Maybe it's the CSS class. Is all this the same as this? Does appear to be. What am I missing? Interesting. I wonder if I can do this. Not seeing any difference, to be honest. Maybe it's the name. So Snoopy Silly Sports Spectacular is just a reskinned game of the alternate world games. Isn't that crazy how that works? I know they did the same thing on like the Game Boy with a whole bunch of games. Especially when they come out of different regions. Maybe they'll try to regionalize a game in a specific way. Change the character of it or something. Yeah, this is not coming up with anything, so I can only assume that there's some logic tied to the name of the file, maybe. Let's see if that is right. All right, I'm gonna need some images while I wait for that test to happen. All right, I got a paragraph about an emulator support overhaul, a paragraph about the orientation lock feature, a paragraph about video streaming, Which images am I doing for those? Oh, when it's so... How do you show off an emulator support overhaul with an image of the app? If you're still around, Andrew, what I was going to do with the orientation lock was take a picture of the handheld that makes your phone flip upside down. But I don't remember what the handheld is called. No, the actual controller. Sir. Oh, Mr. Nibble. Is that what I'm missing? It's there, isn't it? It is there. GameSir X2. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, I'll see if I can find an image that shows it in action. Is that what I was trying to do? I think I was trying to put a padding on the top. That's what that was. And just confirming that this is pointing to the right video. Oh wow, it doesn't want to pause, does it? Yeah, that looks right. I don't know why I was reading that in both padding. All right, what I'm going to do is, I got a lot of work to do on this. I'm going to have to figure out a bunch of images that represent these features in some clever way. And then in order to do that, it looks like I'm going to have to open up some emulators for Android. And then I'm going to have to do some Photoshop work and do the final round of edits that I've left in here, especially the bottom. And then I'm going to have to probably figure out what we're going to do about Android. The Android buttons at the bottom that are missing. That I think we said we were going to do in the future. And I guess now is the future. It's future me. I said, yeah, future me will handle that. And I should do that within the hour. And then if we can get that done, I will be able to send off the newsletter for you guys. And then move on back to all the other works, probably on Windows that I have to test and make it so that you guys will have a beta out in the next little while. So I think I'll call this stream for now, and we'll talk to you guys next Thursday, where hopefully we'll have especially a more interactive theme. I've got a lot of features that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and we'll be able to design out together. If you haven't put, we're going to be basically looking through feature base and trying to distinguish all the features in there. So if you have a feature that you want us to talk about, get it into feature base today, and then eventually we'll be able to talk about it on this stream in future streams. All right, thanks guys for stopping by. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care, everybody.